Hello, my name is Taylor Coyne, joining you from Los Angeles.
And my name is James Cook, coming to you from Indiana. We both research retail and real estate for JLL.
And this is everything we know about retail.
Indeed it is, Taylor. This is the show where we tell you guys everything we know about retail, 3 things at a time.
So, James, what do you know about retail this week?
Well, Taylor, the first thing I know is that we're going to be joined by Chief Economist at JLL, Ryan Severino. Hey, Ryan.
Hey, everybody. How are you? I'm thrilled to be here. I'm excited to say I am going to say something live today that I have not said previously. So be on the lookout for that.
Knowledge bombs coming our way. And we're going to ask Ryan questions about what to expect from the post-COVID consumer and also his outlook for retail real estate in general. Plus, I have some new data I want to share from Harris Poll about how consumer attitudes are changing. But before we get into all of that, Taylor, what do you know about retail?
So I know that despite some conflicting news out there, that the athleisure sector is forecast to see more growth. So here is the first thing that we know about retail. So we know that apparel spending is down as of February, 10.4% year over year. We all have heard apparel department stores have struggled. We are staying at home. What is the point of buying new clothes outside of, wearing them around your house and taking pictures of yourself in front of the mirror? So clearly one of the hardest hit sectors during the pandemic. However, athleisure outperformed the sector, according to NPD, and according to an analysis by Euromonitor and Coresight, that even though they suffered a decrease last year, both are predicting sales will rebound with a projected growth of 7.9% next year. And interestingly, while we were all at home, we all needed more sweatpants. So all of a sudden, athleisure is nearly 20% of all of online spending. So clearly, we all, of the money that we were going to spend on apparel, looks like we all bought more sweatpants. But what happens, when we go back to work? I think that that's the question that a lot of people are asking. But if you take a look at any of the retailer activity that's been happening and announcements over the past probably 6 months, I don't think this trend is going anywhere. So the first, most recently, don't know if you all saw that Dick's Sporting Goods just launched its own men's athleisure line, VRST. I'll be honest, I don't know if we're supposed to pronounce that versed.
It is.
VRST?
I saw a video where they pronounced it versed, like first. Yeah.
I will say I accidentally mistyped it, and I was like, why am I seeing all these vests on Dick's? And I was like looking, I was like, oh, it's okay. That's easy. The E and the R, they're next to each other on the keyboard. But anyway, so Dick's Sporting Goods is saying that this is going to rival Lululemon. And you can see this very stylish man who's wearing his last athleisure, but he's not in the house. He's outside. He's doing his errands, which again speaks to this elevated athleisure that we've been seeing that you can wear outside. You don't look like a schlub. You look good. And you're also comfortable, which I think is, a huge piece of this. So and Dick's has had a great year. They're opening 12 new locations in 2021, and 6 of which will be specialty stores. So I'm guessing smaller format and probably a heavy emphasis on this brand new line that they launched. And they also launched a women's line recently also that's apparently doing incredibly well. And they're not the only ones. So Kohl's came out with, this I know is flex, but FLX. They came out with their
flex.
Yeah, you're really getting a theme here.
Yeah.
But they came out with an active apparel brand in early just this year, and you can see look at these stylish women looking great on the street, looking natural, put together, yet also comfortable. So apparently athleisure and activewear categories drive 20% of Kohl's business. And through this new line and just all of this emphasis, their growth goal is to make it 30% of its business. So they're going full steam ahead on athleisure. The picture on the right is Aerie. So that's American Eagle's brand that's, kind of geared towards a more younger generation, but is incredibly successful, lots of body positivity, that kind of emphasis. They started offline last summer, which again, all athleisure, and they actually opened their first offline by Aerie store in Cool Springs Galleria, which also great name for a shopping center, but that is in Tennessee. So, we're just like seeing all of these new brands come out with more. Target came out with a new workout label, All in Motion. Old Navy said it offered 55% more activewear in their third quarter last year. And then right before the holidays, Lululemon shares are up 54%. And, Nike shares are up 34%. This is no joke. And so as much as maybe we're going back to the office, and I'd like to hear your takes on how excited you are to wear real clothes, I just kind of want to put this out there that it's a real focus on wellness, self-care. It's been a tough year. I think it's, yes, you see in that first picture, the guy getting coffee and his athleisure looking good, but it's also just genuinely about being active and feeling good after a year where we've all felt very bad.
Well, Taylor, I'll play devil's advocate.
Please do.
We're gonna start heading back to the office. And when I'm talking about the collective we, like American office workers, and nothing that I saw on the screen would I wear to the office. Now, Ryan is a casual male, so maybe maybe he can athleisure his way to the office. But I feel like I'm more bullish probably on stuff like this, collared shirts and business casual this year. What do you guys think?
I think fair enough, but it's a combo.
Okay.
Yes. Am I so excited to dress up? Yes. Like I really am. I'm so excited to wear clothes that I really haven't had no reason to wear for the last year. But I'm also not giving up this lifestyle that everyone has presented to me. And now with so many more options too. And also you have to think about pre-pandemic also. Like athleisure was growing. This wasn't going anywhere. And yes, I'm sure 2020, a ton more people than usual might have bought sweatpants, but there's a beauty in that. And yes, we're going back to the office, but if any of these polls hold true, no one wants to go into the office for 5 days every single week anymore. It's about flexibility. What is more flexible than athleisure? Truly, like literally it is flexible.
Well, here's a comment from a viewer. Amber says, I'm hoping athleisure becomes appropriate for the office. I agree. I love being casual because if not, I need more clothes that aren't so tailored.
Also,
I like dressing up a little. It makes me feel good.
And that's great. It's the combination. And also, no matter what, like, yes, you're going to be going into the office, but you still have your weekends where you want to look. And I think that's the great thing where athleisure has taken us, that you still can look polished and not, what we used to typically think about sweatshirts and sweatpants and just, eating junk food in front of the TV, which of course still happens. And you want to be comfortable while you're doing that also. Again, it's all about options and flexibility. But, even like, our brands that we've known for a long time, Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, they're all going full steam ahead on some of these things too. And obviously they're athletic brands. But they're going to be selling more directly to the customer. They're not, they know that demand is there and that they can do it. I just think it's not going anywhere. It's all about options. It's always all about options in my book. And I'm with Amber. Athleisure in the office sounds great.
Keep your options open. All right. Well, I think it's time for the second thing we know about retail.
Yeah, so James, please tell me what else you know about retail.
Well, Taylor, here's the second thing that I know about retail. I know I've got Chief Economist Ryan Severino, who is ready to answer our questions If you're watching this live right now, throw your questions for Ryan into the comment box and we'll get to them if we can. Taylor and I also have some questions. Now, Ryan, you said you've got something you want to reveal. Do we want to start with that or save that for later?
Ooh, let's get to it as we go through
Okay.
the discussion. I'm pretty sure it will come up just because of the nature of this conversation.
Okay, so the talk of my niche nerd community this morning is the article from Bloomberg Economics, estimating that Americans saved $1.7 trillion during the pandemic and that they're probably going to spend some of that this summer. What's your take on that? Are they going to spend it?
Absolutely. I've been saying pretty consistently, I think the number that I had been using, my estimate was 1.6 trillion. So, at that level, $100 billion is a glorified rounding error.
Okay.
I don't think all of it gets spent. Some of it will stay in savings accounts and investment accounts, but I think a lot of it does. And even for, I apologize, I'm going to sound like an economist for a minute, but even for households that have a lower marginal propensity to consume, which means that additional dollar that they bring in, they're less likely to spend. All of those households have been dealing with the same crisis that everyone else has. And a lot of the things that they didn't get to do last year, they're chomping at the bit to do. And if any of them are like most people that I know, I'm sure that you know, have unofficial lists of restaurants they're going to go to, bars they're going to go to, vacations they're going to take. So I'm almost 100% sure we don't spend all of that money, but I think a good amount of it gets spent on top of the general recovery in the economy. And I think that is a lot of growth that is coming this year into next year.
I have to laugh too, as you're saying. I know everyone's got their unofficial list of restaurants and bars. James and I are both like, yes, yes, we do. We have those lists.
Right. The plural of anecdote is definitely not data, but I have this conversation with almost everybody because, again, it's pandemic. It's been a universal phenomenon. Everyone has been grappling with this. I think everyone feels this to varying degrees, but feels similarly about resuming some semblance of their normal lives on the other side of this crisis.
So, Ryan, people are starting to get a new round of stimulus checks. Some of them have already gotten them direct deposited. I was in the grocery store last weekend and overheard two guys talking, and one guy was saying he was going to use his stimulus check to get a new guitar. So he is stimulating the economy.
Nice.
Do you think, is that typical, or is it more likely that people are saving it, or are they where's it going?
I think it's going to a variety of places. I think clearly the lower income households have been spending it out of necessity. I think, again, as you go up the income distribution, that propensity to spend that marginal dollar goes down. But I don't doubt that even those middle to higher income households will be excited about spending that. Probably not on guitars, at least on any kind of widespread basis, but likely more on services. Like I said, going out to bars and restaurants and staying in hotels and getting on airplanes again. I think a lot of the things that we took for granted that have been somewhat circumscribed over the last year, people are really, really, really eager to get back to doing those things again. I think a lot of that money gets spent on situations like those, with the obvious caveat that people who are in difficult financial straits will spend it on necessities because they absolutely need to.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned travel. I think that's what on a lot of people's minds is, I got to get out of the house. I know that I think I heard yesterday that we're now kind of every day we're getting new levels of travel booking, and despite the fact that the CDC says not to, people are booking anyway, especially older people who have the vaccine. They're like, why not? How long does that take to recover? And I guess another question is, how important is tourism to our economy?
It's interesting. I made the point, and I write something almost literally every week. And this week, I made the analogy between sort of the pandemic and what's going on in the economy. And I made this quip that vaccines are good at preventing fever in people, but inducing fever in the economy. And that's really what I think of with the trends in travel that you were talking about. That you've started to see people getting on airplanes more frequently because we're at a point where not a majority, but a significant percentage of the population is immunized. And you see the same thing in hotel occupancy. Hotel occupancy is nearing 50%. It's about at about a 5-month high or so. That to me signals that people are willing to go out and about. That said, I do think it takes some time. It's going to take a while to inoculate everyone, probably by the middle of this year. And then even on the other side of that, there's going to be a reticence on the part of some people to want to do those kinds of activities again. I feel pretty confident in the leisure side of travel bouncing back pretty quickly for the reasons that we've been discussing. I think corporate travel is going to take a while longer just because, well, for all the reasons that you could imagine, because of cost savings, because of the ability to utilize technology. But I think we will eventually get to a point where that is on an upward trajectory again. As far as its importance to the economy, if you just look at the dollar amount spent, it probably seems insignificant. But the thing that I think is important to remember is that travel is a really great facilitator of economic activity that goes into other categories. There are important reasons why in the past, presidents really tried to avert strikes on the part of air traffic controllers because it facilitates dining out and going to bars and going to shows and going to amusement parks and museums and theaters and things like that. And therefore, I think we should not discount the importance of travel, even if it's really hard to quantify how much it really ties into those other categories. I think it's a vital part of the economy. And I think the faster we get it up and running again, the better all of us will feel.
You know, I think it was, I was reading about it yesterday, and I don't know when some of it, I think like April 1st, some of the airlines are saying like, all right, we're not going to save the middle seat anymore. Like it's, you're good to go. We'll let you know if it's still getting booked so you can change it, but we're not doing any of those spacing, requirements or whatever we were doing last year to give everyone some extra space. And I was just like, wow, like, that's, okay, the demand is there, but that's just so, again, this is just, it goes back to the comfort. Some people will feel fine, but the idea of sitting in a sardine can next to people so close to strangers is a little, oh, okay, right. I forgot we used to do that. I was told this was very bad for a year. So I feel like it's going to take a little while for some people.
Even though post-vaccine intellectually you're going to know I'm safe, it just feels weird. Yeah,
there's just, and I think that's going to unfortunately filter to a lot of things. As excited as you are, there's a psychological, trauma that's happened to all of us in the past year where you fear groups of people. And so I think that's going to be a little stickier for some people than others. So I'll be curious to see kind of how that plays out. But I do think, again, to everything we've been saying, most people are super excited. Throw me on the packed plane.
Oh, yeah. If I were vaccinated, I would be ready to go at this point. I'm not there yet, but you get me to that point, and I'm a believer in science and medicine. I will be off and traveling again as soon as I feel that it's a safe thing for me to do.
100%. All right. Well, Ryan, we need to ask you about retail real estate. So shopping centers and high streets. For the past year, we've seen overall rents going down due to less demand. We've seen vacancy going up. Any thought on if that turns around, when that turns around?
So I'm feeling cautiously optimistic about the outlook. One of the things that we see when we look at history is that the overall economy tends to dictate where real estate's going. And obviously real estate tends to lag the business cycle a bit. For retail, it's usually about 4 or 5 quarters. And I say that because if we peg the bottom of the economy around the middle of last year, 4 to 5 quarters is somewhere in 2021, at least on the vacancy rate side. It usually takes rents a little bit longer than that to follow along. But we could quibble about quarters and whether or not it bleeds into a different calendar year. But I think my thought on this is we're going to hold pretty true to form. And the thing that really makes me feel pretty confident about that, and this is the big reveal, is that I think there's a really good chance, I don't want to oversell this and overpromise, but I think there's a good chance that 2021 could actually be the year of the strongest growth that we've ever seen in retail sales. Now, we haven't been keeping track of the data as long as we have for some other categories, and we might not exactly get there, but I really think there's a good chance that at a minimum we could see retail sales growth this year, the way that it's defined in the overall data that the government collects, probably to an extent that we haven't seen in at least decades. And I think that would be really good fuel for demand, because I think there's always this misperception about bricks and mortar retail versus things like e-commerce. During the second quarter last year, when things felt the most dire, when the economy plummeted at the fastest rate ever, when we didn't know a lot about the virus, even then, e-commerce relative to total sales only got up to about 16.1%. And it's come down sequentially for the 2 quarters since then. So even during that highly unusual environment, most people were going out, or most of the money was still being spent in a store somewhere. I think a lot of people are eager to take that big growth rate that I was talking about and actually have that occur in a store and not online. And I think that props up a good amount of demand, which starts to stabilize the retail real estate market over this year and then probably into next year. And then I think we're off and running again in a way that I don't want to, again, oversell, but I don't see this as being the death knell for bricks and mortar retail. If anything, I think the death knell for bricks and mortar retail has been greatly exaggerated over the last 20 years or so.
Well,
That's
I
what
agree
we
with
say
you there.
every day.
I
We
know.
always say that. That is so great to hear it from someone else.
All right. Well, Ryan, stick around, because it's time for the third thing that we know about retail. So check this out. The Harris poll just released this new report, and I'm loving it. It's called The Great Awakening, a year of life in the pandemic, as documented by the Harris poll. It's all of this survey data showing how people's opinions have just really radically changed just in the past 12 months. And I thought at first, maybe I would just share with you guys some of my favorite select pieces of information from the report. But then I thought better of it, because if I've got data, I should turn it into a retail challenge. Are you guys ready for a retail challenge?
When it has an
Apparently.
intro little clip, yes.
Okay, so this is for you guys and for our viewers at home. We're going to be playing the retail challenge. So the way this works is I'm going to be asking you, we're going to do 2 rounds. In each round, we've got, I think, 3 questions per round. I'm going to be asking you a question. You're going to answer as a percentage. So what percentage of people you think agree with this opinion. And let's say if you're within 5 points on either side, you'll get a point. So let's say you say 25, the answer is still 20. You're within 5 points, so you're going to get a point. Does that make sense?
Got it.
Okay. And each of you keep track of your own points, and we'll see who becomes king or queen of the show today. Okay, so let's get into it. Round 1 is getting out and about. Okay, what % of Americans feel uncomfortable taking public transportation right now? It's a lot less than it used to be, a lot less than a year ago. Taylor, I'll ask you first. What do you think the percentage is?
63%.
63%. Taylor says 63%. Ryan?
This is that feel uncomfortable, correct?
Percent that feel uncomfortable going in the subway. Yes.
I'm going big. I'm going 85.
Oh my gosh. The actual answer is 54.
Wow.
So that's more than half. That's a big deal. You got to figure that's not percentage of New Yorkers. That's percentage of Americans. So, a lot of people in, the suburbs don't even go on public transportation. So, oh, well then, now you would think they'd be especially afraid of it. I don't know.
Psychology is a tricky thing.
Yeah, truly.
Interesting. Okay, so 0-0, right? Neither of you got that one right?
No, but kudos to people for being risk takers.
Yeah, right?
Just saying, Keisha said 55%. So Keisha gets a point.
So she was pretty close then. All right.
Nice.
Yeah, Keisha's playing along at home. Okay, so let's get our next question. What?
Keisha, 1 point for me. Accurate. Keisha's in the lead.
Okay, here is one speaking directly to what we just talked about. What % of Americans support keeping the middle seat open on airplanes? What percentage say, let's keep them open? Ryan?
Oh man, I have strong feelings about this as a frequent flyer. How about 40%?
40% says Ryan. Taylor?
I'm going 85 because I'm also taking into account, like, I always want the middle seat open, pandemic or no pandemic.
Well, Taylor, the correct answer is 82. So you just got yourself a point.
Woo!
Yeah. I mean, why doesn't everybody say, yeah, let's leave that middle seat open? Because who wants to sit? Like, the times where you sit down and that middle seat is open, oh, it's such a joy. I love
It's
it.
the best feeling in the world. And then the worst feeling in the world is when you see that last person
Yes.
on the plane who's running and you're like, not me,
Not me.
not me.
And they sit
not
down
me.
and, yeah.
Yeah. So again, I feel like that's a tricky question just because that speaks to just like flying, period. You know?
Right.
Well,
right,
I like
right.
how like psychologically incongruous it is that people feel better about getting on public transportation than they do about having the middle seat open. So I'm like, I don't know, like Freud or someone needs to analyze that because there seems like there's an inconsistency there.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Here's another question. This is a bit wordy, so follow along. So what percent of Americans say that having to show proof that you got the vaccine in order to get into a concert or a sporting event would make them feel safer? So that's percent of people who say that would make them feel safer. Taylor, I'll ask you first.
I'm actually really struggling with this one.
Okay.
I'm going to say 66%.
66%. All right. And Ryan, what do you got?
I'm going to go about half or so. About
Half or
50%.
so, straight up 50?
Yeah.
I wish I had like a gong or something because it was exactly 50%.
Nice.
Wow.
You got it right. So that is the end of round one. What points do we have here? Ryan?
I got one.
You've got one. Taylor?
One.
You got one. So it's
Keisha's got
1-1.
one.
Keisha's got one.
He just got one. Oh, Amber on that last one. Okay, glad I was in, I feel like, good company. Amber had said 79% on that one. Keisha said 72. So, that was, I go back and forth. One, you think that more people, you'd feel comfortable, but maybe it's a selfish thing. What do I care about other people if I have it? Even though nothing's 100%? I don't know. That one's tricky.
All right, so here's round two. We're going into round two. It's anybody's game at this point. So this category is retail and restaurants. So now we're getting into the nitty gritty. Okay, so here's another wordy one. So 62% of people will shop in store at least once a week this spring. But we know that people with kids have a different attitude. What percentage of parents with kids under age 18 are going to shop in store at least once a week? Could be higher, could be lower. I'm not going to reveal anything. Taylor, I'll ask you first. What do you think the answer is?
I don't think it's going to be that much lower. I think I'm going to go with 49%.
49%? Ryan, what do you got?
As a parent, I'm going higher. I think that the variable I don't know in this is, are they assuming that they are vaccinated? But man, I will tell you, if my wife and I are vaccinated, we are taking our kids, within reason, everywhere because we're tired of being at home. So I'd go 75%. But again, I don't know if the vaccination factors into this.
Ryan, you must have ESP. Well, you're not exactly on target. It wasn't 75. The answer is actually 71%. So very close. So you earned yourself a point right there. So good job. So once it's safe, you're dragging the kids everywhere. You're going shopping. We're going to the mall. We're going to the grocery store. We're just getting out of the house, right?
My 7-year-old keeps asking when we can go back to the mall. And we weren't, she wasn't a huge, mall rat before this, but whenever we're near that mall, she wants to know when it'll be safe to go back. I think sooner than later, we will be taking her back.
I love it. All right. So here's our next question. What percent of Americans say they are planning to buy new clothes either for the office or for going out? And Taylor, I'll let you answer first because you've been thinking a lot about athleisure.
83%.
So 83% are planning to
However,
buy new clothes. Okay.
I do wish this question were split up between office and going out,
Yeah.
because I would have different answers to both of those.
Ryan, what do you got? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of people too. I was going to say like 85%. But to Taylor's point, like I don't know how they're defining new clothes necessarily.
Guys, this is the one where if this weren't a G-rated show, I'd be dropping a WTF bomb because the answer is 22%.
What?
I know.
I actually don't believe that.
Yeah, I don't
It's-
either.
I think that was a typo.
It's a Harris poll. It's the gosh honest truth. So 22% of Americans say they're planning to buy new clothes. Now this is right now, right? So maybe it's a little bit early.
Yeah, maybe. This is one of those things where I think like psychology is always tricky. But as soon as you start going out and about and everyone's got new clothes and you still have the jankety stuff you had last year, you're going to be like, uh-oh, I need to go out and get me some new threads kind of thing. So
Keisha also said 82%. We're in good company.
Yeah.
I just don't know how that's possible.
yeah,
Yeah.
especially with that pent-up demand. I think everybody wants to spend money.
Truly. Yeah.
I think if you said, what are you going to do this fall?
Yeah,
I think
maybe.
that
This
number-
summer, this fall, maybe.
Yeah, I think that'd be a lot higher.
I think that's true.
Okay. Before the pandemic, 41% of people reported ordering from food apps. Now, a year later, what is that percentage? Clearly, it's increased, right? Or maybe it's decreased. I don't know. Ryan, what do you think the new percentage is?
70%?
70% from Ryan. Taylor?
My number was 73. I'm going with the, weird numbers. It's bringing me joy.
Okay, so the actual answer is 66%. So I think, Ryan, you were within 5, right?
Yes.
All right. And Taylor, you weren't that far off, but you still weren't within 5.
No, but at least I believe that answer. I feel at least I'm like, yeah, okay, I see that versus the other one. I'm like, absolutely not.
Taylor's got that Price is Right strategy going on.
Yeah.
Which is like the actual retail price without going over sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Just trying to keep it easy. It's fun.
So she's just like 1%. If we're playing Price is Right rules, you'd be like 2%.
Right. There'd be a lot more strategy here, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to be honest at the same time.
All right. How many points do you guys have? We have one more question. Taylor, how many points do you have?
I think I still only have one, but I'm going to be honest. I feel like we all get points for the buying clothes one because this is wrong.
Ryan, what are you at? 2, 3, 4?
I have 3, not counting Taylor's unofficial, like, we don't believe that survey result question. So I'll technically say 3 for right now.
Okay. So I think we've got one more question.
Keisha also, I think, probably has some other points, but Keisha's been playing. Amber also has been playing along, but I think a lot of us have been on the same level. So I still think Ryan is in the lead. I just wanted to give our viewers the credit that they deserve.
So when the pandemic ends, what percent of Americans say they will prefer to shop online only? Online only shopping once the pandemic ends, not right now. So Taylor, I'll go to you first. What do you think?
25%.
25%?
20%.
20%. Okay. Ryan?
Yeah, this is a preference thing as opposed to what they are actually going to do. See, this is why these are psychologically tricky.
Yeah, I mean, there's always play here. The question,
I don't think
if I
it's a
remember,
lot
is
either. I was thinking like 20-ish% because I think even people who prefer to shop online, will still go out and about and do stuff.
yeah. So the actual answer was 11%. Will do online only shopping. By far, the most popular response was hybrid. So I'm going to do a bit of online, a bit of in-store. That was 69%. So that's, that goes kind of in line with what our expectations are. So I think we're crowning Ryan king of everything we know about retail for, what month are we in? March 18th. I don't even know the date. March 18th, king of retail, Ryan Severino. Ryan, any words of wisdom for everybody out there?
Oh, I would just say psychology is a tricky thing. I love survey results like that because what people say is almost never what they do.
Right. Yeah.
Almost never.
the survey, it's like, let's look at the money. Let's follow the money, and then we'll really know. And I would say the thing that surprised all of us was that 22% number of people who, only 22% said they were going to buy new clothes for going out or going to the office. That just seems low to us, right?
Yeah, if you want to give me the over on that as a bet, I would take that all day long and twice on Sunday, because I just think, given everything that I'm reasonably expecting to happen in the economy this year, to Taylor's point, I think it would be different if we were talking about work clothing versus non-work clothing. But like I said, once people are out and about again and they realize that they're still wearing the janky stuff from 2 or 3 years ago, they will probably feel the peer pressure to go out and buy something new.
You know, and I was thinking, like, if that question were you more likely to spend on clothes for going out and work or travel and experiences? Sure, I can see the clothes getting a little lower, but I'd like to talk to these people who took the poll.
All right, so we're running out of time, but we do have one item for discussion. That's right, we've got an item for discussion that came in today from Savannah. Savannah wants to know, how will the reopening of sports and entertainment events and performing arts impact the rebound of cities' economies? Do you see the return of such activity having significant impact on retail? Oh boy. Ryan, you want to start with that one?
I'm bullish on cities. Like, I am not buying into the story that this is the demise of cities. And I know that, at least I'm really confident that this isn't right. I can't guarantee it, because of how quickly the narrative went from nobody wants to live anywhere else but a city to how quickly it became nobody wants to ever live in a city again. I think that you are going to see cities bounce back faster than people think. I think at a minimum, the laws of supply and demand are great. If rents drop for things like residential and office in cities, it just lowers the barrier to entry for other people. And so I don't think that is an unabashed negative. I think all of that activity will resume. People will go out to shows, they will go out to movies and bars and restaurants, sporting events, concerts. I was talking to someone yesterday. I said, I once balked at paying money for certain concert tickets. I will never do that again. Like, never, ever, because the bands I like are going to not be able to tour much sooner than I would probably like. I think all of that is unambiguously good for cities. I'm a buyer on cities in the medium to long run, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and I mean, the retail sector that is suffering the most right now is your urban, CBD retail, because there's just nobody there right now. Events are what drive people. People go to the shows on Broadway and then they go to dinner afterwards or before, go to drinks, or the tourists come in and they spend money in Times Square. All of that stuff is, event driven. So I think it's key to urban retail, no doubt about it. Awesome. So guys, we are quickly running out of time here. Ryan, where can people get more from you? You do a weekly newsletter, right?
Yeah, I write something at least once per week, unless it happens to be a holiday week or something, when I don't think there are going to be a lot of people paying a lot of attention to awesome, exciting economic things that are going on. But probably the best way to find me is just on LinkedIn. If you connect with me on LinkedIn, I post something once per week. If you're someone who doesn't like LinkedIn, I also post on Twitter, but I tend to be a little more active on LinkedIn than I am on Twitter. But you could find me in either place, posting all of the awesomeness that I'm writing on a week-to-week basis.
Who doesn't like LinkedIn? I mean, that's the only social media I'm any good at. All of the other ones I kind of suck at. But I'm not a digital native, so if folks want to hear more about retail and retail real estate, you should be listening to our Where We Buy podcast. We do weekly in-depth interviews. Just search for Where We Buy on your podcast app or go to wherewebuy.show.
And hit the subscribe button in YouTube. Click the little bell icon so you're notified every time a new show comes out. Our next episode will be next Thursday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. And for all of our Spanish friends, 5 p.m. in Barcelona.
It's Barcelona. Okay, one last thing. We're doing a live taping of Where We Buy right here on YouTube. So it's going to be a video and an audio combo. The topic is going to be, how can I use my retail store for last mile fulfillment? Our guest is going to be an expert in that arena, Gino Corradini. It's going to be on April 1st at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. And it's right here on YouTube. You can find it by going to everythingweknow.show. And we'll look forward to having all of you guys. So, Taylor, what else do you know about retail?
James, I'll tell you all of it next week.